Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Villa Vrindavan in Tuscany, Italy, this is Wisdom of the Sages at the Wisdom of the Sages Retreat. Haribo! A daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show. Ciao, everybody. Welcome to Italy. Haribo! What a great day we're having. Oh, yeah, we had an earthquake. Big deal. That happens. And today we have torrential downpour today. It was a great morning. Everything was sweet. And then it got cool out. And then the clouds came in. And our pool party got a little canceled or pushed back. But we're hanging out today and everything's good. We're all here live in the museum. Back in the museum. Let's face it, an earthquake can't hit a place twice, right?
Yeah, that never happened.
That would never happen. And we have a special day today. And first of all, we have a Satchidananda Swami going to be live with us tomorrow and the next day. And today we're doing some interviews with Mikele and Vayu. But before we get to them, Miss Mara's here also. How are you, Mara?
I'm good, thanks. I'm having a great time. We have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings at 12:30 and 1 o'clock Eastern time today, and asana class with Josh Kane at 10:30 a.m. for our Patreon members.
There's a little Josh Kane cult going on here on Patreon. If you're not aware about it, check them out. Yeah, and we're doing live BRG meetings here, and honored to have Jiva here doing what she does best, opening up people's hearts and bringing them closer to God. It's quite wonderful.
There's another announcement. I've been posting the talks that you and I have been given here.
Well, that's why you're handed. Every time I give a talk, he's got this phone in front of me. I was like, "What's he doing?"
Recording it.
I thought you were just listening for your own pleasure.
That's for the Patreon members.
Okay. All right. So you don't even have to be here. You could just get it on Patreon.com or our Patreon platform.
That's your plug. You go ahead and do it.
Okay, Patreon. If you like what we're doing, you want to support us, we appreciate it. Thank you. You go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages to make a monthly contribution of your choice to support this. If you think you get $1 worth, $5 worth out of this, then you make a monthly pledge, and we appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not going to say it today, but Roger Tompkins did. Double it. And whatever you're making, double it. Okay. So, the show time tomorrow is, where's Tarek? Or what time are we doing the podcast tomorrow? Tarek? Podcast. Tomorrow. Noon. Okay, it's
but he doesn't know that.
We usually do it at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Is that okay? Or no? Okay. We have week.
So why don't we try to stay on our schedule?
Can we do it at 2 p.m. tomorrow? Will that work? Okay, so it's going to be at 8 a.m. Eastern time, sleeping Saturday, 2 p.m. For all the Euros. All righty. Anything else you want to say, Kastuba, before? How are you doing in Italy?
Wonderful.
If you missed the earthquake episode, that was the last episode. there was an actual earthquake during our podcast. We have like so many hours in the day, so many days we were here. The 1 hour we chose, right after I tell this whole horrible, like practically tragic experience I had on a ferry that I created in my mind.
Practically tragic.
It was practically tragic-ish experience.
Near tragic.
It was a near tragedy, if you actually think about it. Because at any minute, the whole thing could have capsized. But
There's something about it that was tragic.
But after that, and then my survival story was quite amazing too. I just went back to bed. But after that, an earthquake hit, and no one knew what to think. Everybody's phone alarms went off, like, this is a test. This is not a test. This is an emergency. There's been an earthquake in your vicinity. And then, to make matters more fun, we drove right into. Let's talk about Siena for a moment. We drove right to Siena. We all got on the bus and drove to Siena. Siena is a charming medieval village town, and we visited our friend Jagannath Prem, went to his hat store. Everybody bought hats. And then after eating, we just sang out. We just walked out. Want to talk about the kirtan just leaving the city?
Well, atmospherically, everything was beautiful, right? It was evening on a very hot day, but everything was cooling down. There are nice breezes. And then you're in this very beautiful, ancient Italian city. And all the buildings are these old stone buildings. So like the streets are almost like alleyways, and the sound really reverberates through them nice.
Right.
And you picked, what's key? I'll tell you, this is key. When people go out and they do kirtan out in public, you got to pick a nice melody, right? You can't get into one of these introspective, darker kind of
complicated.
Yeah. No, you need a happy one that's easy for people to relate to. You picked a good one, a good standard one.
The classic Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
and
it
people
works.
Responded. People were. It was So as we were going through the streets, practically everyone just seemed to really appreciate it. People were happy, and it felt very uplifting.
Yeah, there's this. It's called Nagar Sankirtan. When you take it, in the Hare Krishna. No, not Naga Sankirtan. It's Nagar. It's like the village.
Like a Naga too.
But it is like a Naga. Yes. And we don't usually use that word in America. That's sort of like the Bengali word or the Sanskrit phrase. We call it Harinam, which just means the holy name, which means you go out publicly chanting. So if you've ever chanted at all, like in a yoga class, or your teacher started chanting, and the first time it's a little sort of like confronting, like, oh, wow, I have to sing. I wasn't expecting this. I just have an hour to work out, and now we're going to sing a song. And so it's a little confronting. Everybody's singing. And the first time you did it, you're like, oh, I'm sort of like that. And then you get into it, and every time you come to that yoga class and you're all singing, you're like, yeah, okay, this is my favorite part. I get to sing the song, that little song they sing. And then you're thinking, you know what? Oh, my yoga studio is offering a kirtan. That's super cool. It's just the chanting. Okay, I go to that, or we get a Krishna Das concert or something like that, and you go, and everybody there collectively is into this little chanting thing. So you do that, and you're singing, and it feels good, and one lady's crying, another guy's dancing like a silly in the back, and you're like, this is incredible, it's freeing. Then you get serious about it, and you go to some temple, and then the next phase is you take it to the street. Now, every time your ego is a little bit more getting like collapsed, and you're feeling a little, and when the ego collapses, you feel a little free. Now, I don't know if you remember, maybe you're just like, Stuba, I will say, he's like a speedboat of Bhakti. He's just like, Bhakti, I want it. Bam! I'm like spinning around, going backwards, then going forward, then taking a detour.
Just as fast as me, probably faster.
But the wrong direction.
You're going like, like I'm going like this, and you're going like this. But I think you're ahead of me.
I don't think so. But so I remember my first time I went on, because I'm already opted in. I've already been to India, came back to New York, and still to walk around in New York with a dhoti, it was very, very confronting for me. It just showed, and that's why this process actually works. We live in our ego. And part of becoming a liberated being is to step outside of your ego And nothing works better than walking around the Lower East Side with a dhoti on to smash your ego. If you think you're the cool hardcore singer from the Lower East Side, oh my God, everything. I'm having a meltdown. So you know what I did was, at first I was like, oh yeah, my dhoti's dirty. So I just wore jeans, and I stayed to the very back of the chanting and just like handed out cards to people. I was like, yeah, I'm with these guys, but sort of not with them.
I may not be with them at all.
I may not be with them. I might just be like it. I like it. I appreciate it. And then
Be behind them.
I'm just walking behind them. It was like I had to ease into that. But I will say, and I'd like to show of hands. We got a big group here in front of us, live. How many people when we were walking down the street in Siena were a little bit like, oh, this is weird? Was anyone? Oh, all right, good. There were like 6 people. Chris Pitt, long arm of the law. He was like a little. Okay, the UK crew, they were a little, okay. This is out of my comfort zone. I'm Indian, but it's out of my comfort zone. She's Indian. She was still a little weird. That's okay. Yeah. But truthfully, the first time I've ever, what about you, Kostuba? Your first Nagar Sankirtan, where was it?
I don't remember. I shared you my story about my first time in public in a dhoti on the street and everything like that. But I can't remember the first time doing Sankirtan.
Were you comfortable with it, or was it like, oh, this is awkward?
It was a challenge to be met. That's how I looked at it.
Well, they did so well. Next time they're going to have to do it in dhotis and saris. What do you say? No, just kidding. Yeah, but I will say it's confronting. But when you actually just up, you know what? I'm just going to sing the holy name, aloof to public opinion. It is so. The public loved it. In Italy, they're just so pious. They're like, yes. They're singing beautiful mantras.
It's about God, I think.
It was like that. It was like that. Children were clapping, people waving from the windows. Every time, me being a New Yorker, I was like, all right, who wants to fight me? One of these guys is going to want to fight me. I'm going to have to start whipping the cartels in the air. I go right for this is going to be a fight. But people were joyful and loving. I wasn't ready for it.
I remember 2 years ago when we did it, same exact place, and we're going through the streets, and then the cops showed up.
And I was like, yeah, the cop, here they come. I'll bring it on.
We got a confrontation. Let's go. And then the cops are just like, oh, we just want to, there's a trouble over here. We just want to help you avoid it, redirect you, come over this way. We're like, oh, thanks.
I was like, why is everyone so nice? Not used to it. All right. Anyway, that was great. So Nagar Sankirtan, if you ever get the chance, we do it in India. It's especially fun in Italy because when they see a bunch of Western people coming, doing what you do in holy cities, they expect it, and it's like it blows their mind, and oftentimes they just join it and come with us. So we go with double the people we start with sometimes, or we'll do it on a train, or we'll do it, and crowds gather. They hug you, they throw coins at you, they videotape. It becomes a whole thing. Yeah, I'm talking India. That's next level. Yeah. So.
Bring some guests.
Let's bring some guests. Let's start with Mikele. Mikele, come on down. Hey, now, Mikele, you may recognize from Zoom. He's oftentimes a regular Zoomer, and he lives. Check out. We are in this obscure part of Tuscany. Guess where he lives? Across the street.
Practically across the street. Yeah, just 5 minutes between Eva Machiavelli's house and Villa Vrindavan.
Unbelievable. So here's the question, how did you get into Bhakti? And, how did you get into Bhakti? I mean, here's a Bhakti temple. Who did you meet? Okay. Kostuba was saying, let's talk about your family background, because he doesn't live in in an apartment across the streets. He lives in another Villa Vrindavan, practically speaking, across the street. Okay, you want to tell them about your family and their background and their connection with Italy and Tuscany?
Sure. Just want to say Hare Krishna to everybody. It's been really honored to be on the show. I was born with my brother in South Africa. My dad is Italian, so he was born here in Italy. And my mom was born in Kenya, but from English parents. In the year 2000, I was born in 1989. So in the year 2000, we decided all to move to Italy from South Africa. So on my dad's side, my grandmother, his mother, she was part of the Antinori family, which is a well-known family in wine production. Yeah.
I thought they were. Usually when you say they're from the famous family of Italy, you're talking about
Like a mafia.
the mafia. That's where I thought we were going with this.
No, yeah, that would have been cooler. But no, yeah, just in the wine production, but not intense wine production, just very like high quality, really careful wine production. So they had a couple of properties, so some stuff in the countryside around this area, and plus some apartments in Florence. So when we moved over, my grandmother was living on her own in this villa. So she was just there on her own in the summer only. So in the winter, it was just really empty. No one was there. So when we decided to move to Italy, some of the properties around the villa, because it was an old farmhouse, so there was a couple of other barns, pigsties, and other buildings around it. And some had got all divided into the brothers and sisters. But because we were coming from South Africa, we kind of knew more about the countryside. So we took over the main villa and all the land around it. So with the olive groves and vineyards. So yeah, that's how we got here. And that's the, let's say, family side, important side. How I got into Bhakti, that was when we arrived in Italy. I didn't grow up with any spiritual or any religious background. Like we didn't do any maybe church once in a while, because my dad always did find it was important just to keep an open mind and visit these places. But only moving to Italy, I was 11 years old, and the day after we moved to Italy, I went to the local school here in San Casciano. So coming from South Africa to a local village was quite scary. They asked me if I used to go to school on elephants, because it was really bizarre for a local village to.
What was school in Kenya like?
South Africa.
Oh, South Africa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that was because it was a British colony. Okay. Yeah, school was fine. Yeah, just normal. Okay. Yeah. So when I moved here, went to school the next day. So that was quite scary, out of your comfort zone. And there were two children of devotees. One was called Vaishnava, and the girl was Merida. So I would say that was my first encounter. And they were both vegetarian, like the only vegetarian kids. And for me, it was like a bit weird because South Africa, their cuisine is quite meat-based. So that kind of interested me. And also I kind of heard about the devotees, the Hare Krishna movement. Only until when I was in my teenagers, I met the family at the gatehouse here at Villa Vrindavan, their son actually, Dhruva. And we used to skateboard and BMX together. And then on a Sunday, I used to go to his house, so just at the gate here, and his mom used to bring us prasadam. So I think, from there, it just kind of started from there. And as well, growing up, a lot of questions. Okay, my mom's born in Kenya, English parents. My dad is Italian, but he moved to Kenya when he was only 11. But I was born in South Africa. So a lot of questions of, who am I? Came up, and where do I belong? Am I South African? Am I Italian? Am I English? So that was also, things I always thought about. Then going to high school, I studied, it's like a scientific school, like high school. So you had philosophy, psychology, Latin, all of these subjects. And in philosophy, a lot of philosophers brought up quite interesting ideas, especially Schopenhauer with the veil of Maya, which I was quite interested, like this whole reality there's something beyond it. So I started getting interested in a bit of Buddhism, trying to meditate, sitting on my bed still, mind going all over the place. And then from after that, moved to England in 2009 for university, where I studied photography and film, but ended up doing my thesis on sound vibration and frequency, because I really wanted to see or know what was there that everybody could kind of connect to. Where was the center point? So through that, got into the scientific area with sound vibrations and sound frequencies and how they would treat people's maybe diseases and things like that. So the title was How Frequency and Vibration Can Modify Form, Material Form. And just from there, it opened up on the religious, spiritual side as well. So in the Bible, and then finally getting into Hinduism and the mantras. And from there, it kind of, opened up a lot of things. And I got first books of Prabhupada. And then I saw the connection. I was like, okay, I live next to the temple. This is interesting. It was kind of trying to bring me back. So at the time, I was with a girl, and we started this studio in England, in Maidstone, called Stepping Stone Studios. So it was a studio where we would give space for upcoming artists to, promote their work, music-wise and artistic side. And she was also into spirituality, and she always kept a photo of Prabhupada ever since she was a small kid. She didn't know why. She just really, really liked this photo. So she always had it in her wallet. And then the day I went to the studio and went upstairs, this was the first times I met her. She had already painted, everybody was there, from Ganesha to Shiva to Krishna. So yeah, things were making sense. And so during my thesis, we got involved more into the Bhagavatam, but nothing too serious. It was just reading a couple of pages. Then the whole studio collapsed because we went traveling, and we left the studio in the hands of her sister and boyfriend, who kind of got the whole studio in debt. So that project was coming to an end. And then she had met somebody else, and a bit of a turmoil situation. So I thought, I'm going to move back to Italy, I think, And at this time now, my parents had started renovating the villa here for holiday homes. So people would come and stay and have a nice time in Tuscany, chill by the pool, have a glass of wine, very standard stuff. So coming back, I was like, okay, why am I in England? I could just come back here and, help out, run the place. So I started getting more involved. When I came back, that's when I met Tarak as well, because he was here in that period. And I always remember one day he just took me and he just put me in the middle of a kirtan. Just sit down here and just sit and listen. So for me, that was like the first, and for me, the whole Bhakti yoga was incredible, because it was that whole vibration, musical side, and got a lot crazy. It was like, wow, these guys are partying harder than, you would party in other places. So I thought, wow, and it's all spiritual and clean, and, no one's involved in any sort of intoxications or to get, to that sort of state. So for me, that was a point where I held on to. So I just started reading quite a lot. And with my family, it was a bit difficult because, my dad was very like, oh, that's Hare Krishnas, what are they doing with their robes and, just chanting on the streets. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But we've always had a good relationship, so we always talked about it. We always had good discussions and been open about it. My mom, she's really interested in it, as moms are for that, children, whatever they're into, they kind of, it's good. And then, so with my brother, he at this time was also studying in England, and then he met his wife, who was from Greece, and they ended up living in Dubai. So I would go over to visit them every so often and talk about Krishna consciousness to them, about vegetarianism, and just at least leave the cows alone, and quite an important important aspect. So from there, at that time, also my brother was getting into yoga, just, asanas and stuff like that. But the whole philosophy, blue man, and yeah, it was a bit far out for him.
It is a little bit far-fetched. I like the idea of I leave a few books around. That's what I would do it at my mom. I just leave a book here, a little book there.
So every time we would go back and forth. So every time I would go back and forth to them and talk a little bit more about, Krishna consciousness. Until one day, he was listening to a lot of podcasts because he was also kind of frustrated in Dubai, this just very, very like strong place where you just have to go, make money, stress for other people and then they could just, fire you whenever, you're just a number. So he was also kind of thinking, okay, what's the solution here? And then he, stumbled upon Raghunath on Joe Rogan's podcast. So for him, he was like, oh, wow. And then we kind of started talking again, and
Did we know each other at that point?
You had come with Tarak years before to see the house for potentially doing something. Yeah. So the seed was there. Seed was planted. From there, my brother's now completely really, involved and wanting to do so much more. So from there on, then COVID came. So he got really into yoga there and into studying and reading. And then we were talking because also my parents were getting a bit, they're getting older and they were just, figuring out what to do because they don't have a pension. They put everything into this place that we've renovated. So their idea was to sell the whole place near here. No.
No. We have plans for it.
Exactly.
It's a retirement community. The Wisdom of the Sages retirement community we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll all buy into it. How many people want to buy into the Wisdom of the Sage and Tuscany retirement community? Yes, the hands are up there on Zoom.
That's right. So my brother and I were talking, and we were like, we can, let's take it over. I'll move back to Italy he's got 2 kids now and his wife. So that was a big change for him, to move from Dubai and get everything over here. And now it's been a year and a half that he's been back. And it's been quite amazing because we're on the same wavelength and we really want to we realize what we have and want to put that into service and really make it a place for a higher purpose and not just for people to come and do what they were doing back at home. A really nice, peaceful place.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Not people doing what they were doing back at home. And that is like sort of the magic of Bhakti. We all have a home life and we can do our home life here. But imagine if you can go to a place where now you're going to do things slightly differently. It's going to maybe not change you overnight, but change your direction overnight. And that's the magic of having a retreat, having a center, having an immersion. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Definitely. So that was the idea. So we started getting in contact with a couple of people. And then last year, during the Wisdom of the Sages retreat, Raghunath came over just to see the space. And so we were just talking and Vayu was with them. And the idea was to even have artists in residence at the place. So even creating that creative side as well, so people could explore any of their crafts that they wanted to in a nice environment. So speaking with Vayu, we decided, okay, next year you're coming over for 2 months and to create a whole body of work. And so today we'll be having his exhibition at the Villa Casa Vecchia. Yeah, a success. Yeah, be really good.
The name of the place is called Casa.
It's called Casa Vecchia, which means old house. Yeah. Very simple.
It's a beautiful place. Big, beautiful rooms, like a real Tuscan villa, 2 swimming pools. it's gorgeous. I think there's an incredible like basement where they used to make the wine or press the olive oil. And
we've created a whole museum. So we've also collected all of the old artifacts that we've found in the villa and really preserved them so it can just add some, value to the place and a little bit more interest. And
how long's your family owned it?
for the last 250 years. Yeah, it's been.
That's about as old as our country.
I mean, the first section of the villa was built in the 1200s. So.
What? Before that it was built in the 1200s. That was before Lord Chaitanya. That's pretty impressive. Wow, so it's great. So your idea is to make it also a creative outlet. Also, imagine, Villa Vrindavan was started, and one of the themes of it was, it will be where all the devotee artists will come and paint. And you can see all the beautiful paintings around here as well. And it's really just, you feel like you are in a beautiful medieval art gallery, almost, And so, who knows? I'm very interested to see where Casa Vecchia goes in the future. And your story is as if it's not your plan anymore. It's Krishna's plan, and he's just moving you, and your surrender is letting him move you more freely. And it's beautiful to witness.
Yes, definitely. And it's just we even had Jayapataka Swami stay. We had to do a whole bathroom for him, take out a bath and put in a shower. But it's just in that mood that, things have just come together, and just staying humble and trying to serve the devotees and people that are really wanting to make a change.
How are your parents now that they don't want to sell and they have nothing to retire on? How are they feeling about all this?
No, they're feeling good because they see that my brother and I work really well. We've got a good relationship, and we're getting things done. So,
this is another, because a lot of people who listen to the show are new to a bhakti path. Also on a bhakti path, there's a lot of letting go of family tradition. For example, I'm Italian, came from we ate tons of meat every day, like it was the last meal on earth. And it was almost when my parents were growing up, only the wealthy could eat meat. So my parents grew up very poor. So it was almost a sign of look, we made it out of the ghetto, the Italian Brooklyn ghetto. We made it out of there, and now we can eat meat every day. And for their son to say, you know what, it's over, not doing it anymore. It was almost like you were going against the family. But I think your story, and my story too, it took a little more time, and I'm a little bit more fanatical maybe. When they see that you're growing up and actually you're cultivating good qualities, and that you are actually grounded. I love the way you talk to your father too, and have these deep conversations with him. I don't know if that would happen if my father was alive, but it was the fact that you were just explaining things to him in a very logical way, and you're having a back and forth, and they see you're developing your character, or you want a family. Sometimes the parents just want you to have kids so they can be grandparents. Sometimes that's all they want. And when I became a monk, they were just like, okay, no grandkids from this guy. But they become relieved a little bit. And I think a lot of us who did go into an ashram, their parents really sort of buckled, freaked out a little bit, until they realized, you know what, this is a good thing. This is actually a good thing. So you're turning out pretty good. And your brother, I ran into your brother yesterday, strangely enough. He's doing great. He's doing great. What's happening with the vineyards? That's interesting. What do you do? It's like Mara giving up her catering business. Mara went through this whole thing where she was a caterer, and people eat meat. And then she came to this fork in the road, and she's like, I've worked for years creating this business. What do I do now? And then she had to, what can I do? And she had this shift where I'm going to do vegetarian catering, and I'm just going to trust Krishna. So what do you do when you create this? No judgment. I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a big thing because we have 7 hectares of vineyards, and it has to be, harvested and done something with it. So there's various projects with that. We really want to focus more on the olive oil because we know it's a little bit more healthier product, and potentially we want to try and do like a non-alcoholic wine, and do also some grape juice, which, funny enough, is hard to get in this area, is grape juice, because everybody uses it specifically for wine. Yeah, because it's such an area for wine production. So yeah, we're still kind of trying to figure out the alternatives, and keeping the options, open. This is anything jams, or you're just selling off the grapes, so you don't even have to do anything with it. So yeah, but we're definitely taking that into consideration as to how to transform that production.
It was the topic of our class today. What happens if, as you enter Bhakti, you have things that are part of your life, part of your career? A lot of people common statement I hear on a regular basis is, my work environment is so toxic, I can't even explain it to you. And like, what do you do with that as you're trying to create a higher consciousness, and it's just not there in the workplace? Or I have people that are bartenders, or they what can I do? That's how we make a living. I make a lot of money from that. And I find that what happens is Krishna offers them opportunities. You want to take opportunity on the right or opportunity on the left? What will it be? And again, I think sometimes people, they either manage it and just say, you know what, well, this is how we make money, and it helps me, for my personal life. And sometimes people just get fed up with it and like, you know what, no more. It's over. It's that relation that is over. And so it's interesting, and each one of us are unique because we're all coming from unique places. And as we add Krishna, I find Krishna to be the lemon in the milk, where it just separates, and you start realizing, like, this part of my life was never serving me. I didn't see it as that. I saw it as sort of a cool thing, and then I realized, actually, this part of my life was just exclusively for my ego, and that's over. I don't want to keep endorsing this or pushing this. So it's interesting how it goes. And again, with everyone that's listening, there's no judgment. We all have to figure out these things for ourselves as we move on. And it's always great to do it, not almost like in a rush, like I'm just going to do this right now. We take some time, we think about it deeply, we talk to people, friends that we trust, teachers that we trust, to try to get some advice how we can move forward.
For sure. And I see as well, even with the younger generation in this area, want to do something a little bit more quality-wise. They really want to look after any production that they are doing. There's a lot of people doing less alcohol percentage wines, trying to bring out more of the fruit stuff. So there is a change in more quality. And I think that's a very good and important step. Yeah.
Mikele, we are very excited to go to Casa de Vecchia today, and for the pool transcendental pool party, sound bath, kirtan day, and of course the art show. Now, this art showings, maybe we should just reach out to some devotional artists. There's millions out there that would probably love to come to Italy, paint.
Yes, please. We'll put down on the chat maybe the website and a way to get in contact. And we're really just open to ideas. And yeah, we'd just love to associate as well.
Imagine a big devotional art festival once a year, where people could come, see these paintings, or buy the paintings, or just appreciate them, stay nearby, have kirtan, big feasts. Very interesting where this could go in 10 years. Very interesting. It starts to happen twice a year, 3 times a year. I move in. It just could see where this is going. People bring me food, garland me. I'm on a big chair. Oh, Krishna. All right, I want to thank you for joining us. And now we're going to bring on part 2 of the evening tonight, which is Vayu. Haribo. Thanks, a big Haribo to Mikele. Vayu, come on down. So Vayu stayed in the room next to me last year. Hey, welcome, Vayu. Haribo. So Vayu is from down under. He's an Australia devotee. Why don't you talk about briefly about your devotee background?
Okay, well, I've become a devotee in, I guess, 1982. My brother was a devotee. His name was John Mustimi, and he blooped.
Let's explain bloop. That's an old school word. Nowadays, we don't usually say the word bloop because we all sort of feel like we're blooped. Back then, when the Krishna consciousness movement was sort of like, you are in the bubble or you're blooped. There was sort of like a, I'm in or I'm out. And now most of the people don't live in a temple. Most of us are just sort of, trying to add Krishna to our life, to our family, to our workplace, the best we can. The word has almost become like an ancient, what's an ancient word we have? Thou'rt. Is thou'rt a word? Did I just make that up? Shoppy? Is that a word? Anyway, you get the idea. It's sort of like, I don't use it anymore. I don't say blooped. But anyway, your brother blooped. He left the ashram.
He left, and I was in Melbourne at the time, and he came and stayed with my wife and I. And of course, he started to preach to us straight away, and he used to cook us Sunday feasts with curd, and we got hooked on that pretty quickly. So yeah, it wasn't long before I became a vegetarian. I was going to work in a factory, and the first book I read was Coming Back, and it just separated me from everything that was happening in this world that I was in already, So we actually, we formed a band. I was a drummer, he was a bass player, and we had a couple of Krishna conscious songs, one called Maheshvara, and in the end, 5 of the band members became devotees. My sister became a devotee from him coming out of the movement. So he...
Maybe I missed something because I tend to space out. This all happened after he, quote, blooped. Yeah. Some of the best preachers are blooped. That's what I find. You know what I mean, Kastuba? Yeah, okay. So, he blooped and he made your whole band devotees.
Yep, you blooped once, didn't you?
I'm eternally blooped, Prabhu. Don't you get it? You haven't picked up on that yet?
Anyway, so so we joined the temple. My brother rejoined the temple in King's Cross in Sydney, and my wife and I went up to check it out, and had to come back and tell my mum and stepfather, yeah, we're going to, which they did not like. My brother was an extremist. He was always doing kooky things in his life, so that was okay for him, but for us it wasn't. But anyway, we joined in King's Cross, and it was a thriving community then, but probably about 80 or 90 devotees, and it was a smallish temple, but it was packed all the time, and yeah, it was really enlivening, and yeah, that's how it all started.
And we met you at Villa Vrindavan, but you were on the show regularly. How did you get into the podcast, considering you're from Australia, we're from New York?
Okay. I was actually flying from Sydney to Perth. I had a exhibition in Perth, and my sister had told me that you should watch this thing on Joe Rogan. And so I got Wi-Fi on the plane. I had 5 hours to kill, and I watched you. And I didn't know who you were. I didn't know you were a devotee, but I was watching it going, oh, this guy, he's saying some all right. I think he might be a devotee.
I can really hide it well.
I always remember the bit where you said your mind's like a garage, and yeah, so it made sense to me, and I never stopped. Tuned in, went for it.
Wow. And then we very soon realized this is actually a very talented artist, and what's that? We met him at this retreat last year. And then and then he sent us a painting that is still hanging in our house, and it's one of those things we talk about a lot. Like we get into Bhakti, and all of a sudden, okay, I'm already painting pictures, or I'm already doing music, or I'm already making money in my business. Now what do? Do I give those things up, or do I give them up because they were merely serving my ego? And it's a beautiful example. Do you want to explain how Bhakti just shifted the trajectory a little for you?
Yeah. Well, I'll just give you a little backstory. I was when I was a boy, I drew prolifically, and I was good at sport. I was doing well at school. Everything was safe around me, and my dad died suddenly. So,
How old?
51. So I lost focus on everything, and soon enough I was into the teens, and small town culture, drinks, drugs, and go to Melbourne and more drinking and more drugs, and I lost connection with that side of me that wanted to. I always knew it was in me, but I couldn't actually do it anymore. So, long story short, when I was 43 years old, and I was in the art business, I had galleries, and I had a summer gallery down the coast, and I had a sketch pad, and I did a right-handed drawing, couldn't feel it. So I switched hands and I did a left-handed drawing, and it was a moment, I just liked it. The line was soft, it was a bit random, the sort of art I like. And I never stopped drawing. I filled pad after pad. I started life drawing in my gallery in Sydney, and for 5 years, that was my schooling. And it was incredible because I worked out that it come from the right side of the brain, which is your female energy, a softer energy, and more in tune with my nature. So I was able to, bring that to the fore in my work. And I also started to write on all my drawings. Just instinctively I'd write. So then I started writing poetry. And actually, Mikele and I are doing a book. And he's going to Sardinia shortly, and he's going to do photography there because he's a good photographer. And we're going to do a book of my poetry and Mikele's photographs.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so was there a moment where you're like, you know what, I want to do devotional art? Yeah. And what does your art consist of now?
Yeah, well, it hasn't actually changed from the time I started painting on canvas. But my work, I remember on a show not long ago where Kastuba asked you what should be the main thing you say or to new people, and you said you should have 1,000 ways to tell people you're not the body. So the same with my work. I always say it starts with the beginning of knowledge. We're not the body. So I draw figures, whether it's people or animals. They're very readable, have white backgrounds, and they're always engaging you with their eyes. And, as I explain, the eyes are the window to the soul. So, and I always have words that have an intention and an energy that goes with them. And I've had people buy my work just for the words. So I knew that I could get to people like that, and every time I have an opening, I have a talk about just that, the spirit and matter, the energies, two energies we live with in this world, and how they are, what they are, So that's kind of my, it might, I always think it doesn't sound like much, but I give it everything. It's an offering that I do, and it's brought me here to Italy and in front of all you beautiful people. And I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Vayu, Harry Bull, I'm very grateful to have you. And you're a sage group leader?
No, I'm Nityananda Chandra.
No, you're Nityananda Chandra. It's because he's saying we love him. Someone's saying on the board we love him.
You put my name for it, but I was going to be here, and I don't know if I'd be a great leader.
I think you would be. I'd follow you. Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
I've missed the last two sage groups. I just couldn't wake up at 2 in the morning.
That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. There are a lot of great phrases within Bhakti culture that are great T-shirts. We always joke about that, but it's true. There's so many statements in Bhakti that when you just hear them once, they just shift the weight. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind. That first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Or what was another great one? The material. Someone just said, a Swami just said, and it's something we always say, but just hear it for the first time. That first time you hear one of those classic Prabhupadisms or the pieces of the Bhagavatam, said, the living entity is always hankering for the future and lamenting for the past. I was like, oh my God, that's my entire life. That's my entire life. So to capture any of those things
And you do it with I've seen ones you've done with animals and ones. Do you ever do directly? I'm going to paint Lord Krishna.
Oh, yes. I think it's my life's the culmination of all my work is to do a really good painting of Krishna, but I'm not there yet. I feel like I can't do it justice. So I've done actually a Hanuman for this exhibition, and I drew it without referring to anything. I didn't look at any pictures of anyone else's, and that's what I do. I don't look at anyone else's artwork. I just let it come out, and it's there. But I hope you like it.
And tonight at the art exhibition, are other people outside of our group coming? What's going on?
Oh, there's going to be. I don't know if the rain will keep people away, but there's possibility there could be like 150 people there, because there's Mikele's mother's the president of an international charity league in Florence. We've sort of Tarak's used his WhatsApp mailing list, and lots of people have put in. So hopefully there's a good crowd. Yeah, hope you turn up, Raghu.
I'm going to be there even if I'm soaking wet, of course. What would you say when painting? Is there a meditation in the mind? Yeah. Like when I'm chanting. Although I like to chanting in kirtan, and that's not like my main service, chanting in kirtan. I'm definitely not on the A team of chanting, but I like to just sort of I like to engage with people, but not too much. I like to sort of picture my altar somewhere floating around in space and just sing as if I'm singing to my private deities there for their pleasure. Is there like a meditation you have when you paint?
I think for an artist who's using their hands, it's that moment where you disconnect your hand from your mind, and you become just in a flow of energy. But as a few of the devotees here will know my 3 Fs that I give it, it's freedom, fearlessness, and have fun. But the most important thing is not to be attached to what's coming out on the paper or the canvas. And those 3 Fs roughly equate to the nature of the soul, which is eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So I try to remind myself of that regularly when I'm working, and be in a place where I can just give, actually. I don't have a particular meditation like that, but I just try and let myself be with what I'm doing and employ those 3 qualities.
That seems like something I've heard devotees say who are giving Bhagavatam class, where they just sort of move their ego out of the way, and it's as if Krishna's speaking through them. That happens. I know I've heard famous artists say that. I think it was Michelangelo or something, right? But it's as if when I used to write lyrics to songs, it was as if they were already written in the ether, and I have to just put this puzzle together. I think it's a thing with artists, musicians, sculptors, architects, that it's out there, and you're sort of depending on higher beings or divinity to flow through the body. And that's probably what we're supposed to do in this life. I know we have Sarah Grahi here. She's a great artist. Ananda Leela is an incredible artist also. Have you seen Ananda Leela stuff too?
She just started following me. Yeah, I saw her work on Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, she just gave me and Mara this incredible painting. So it's like the devotees like yourself, you're just focused on doing the work and getting the ego out of the way. And then I love that. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's when I'm writing poetry, I don't make it up. And I write my poetry left-handed as well. So I just listen. And you have to be brave enough just to write down what you hear. And that's sometimes I write a poem and I just go, where the hell did that come from? I never made those words up, So it's then something divine is coming through you. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Now, do you have a website people can find you? Yeah. You want to?
Okay. mcgart.com.au. MCG Art.
mcgart.com.
Vayu artist.
I'm sorry, .au, not .com.
.com.au.
.com.au. mcg
Art.
art.com.au. And Mikele, do you have a website for? Oh boy. Oh boy. Get over here quick and spell that, please. Casa, Vecchia, Villas.
Yeah, we can put in the description.
Say it right in. Just say it anyway.
CasaVecchiaVillas.com. So spelling is CasaVecchiaVillas.com.
Beautiful. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mikele. Thanks, Vayu. You guys are beautiful. I'm so glad you're part of my life. Haribo. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Sorry for the crazy times. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, live from Florence, Italy. We're going to tell you how the art show went, how the pool party went. Make sure there's no thunderstorms out there. And also, their family's cooking Italian for us tonight. Quite excited.
I've heard that it's like the best chef around.
The best chef around.
Yeah, Tarek spoke very highly of it.
Okay, really excited. Thanks, everybody, live. Thanks for all the Zoomers. Look at this beautiful place. It keeps going. And tomorrow, Sachinanda Swami, don't miss it. It's 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. for the Euros. Look at this picture of Lord Ram killing Ravana behind me. You see that? Come on, live. You guys know how to clap?